What's up, everyone? This is Marie Larsen, and you are listening to The Audio Entrepreneur. I've spent the last year and a half doing podcasts and content creation for some of the fastest growing entrepreneurs today. Their strategies and tips have been life-changing once I took action. So I decided to take my audio industry to the next level by building a 7-figure company that teaches people how to create, strategize, and repurpose their content like a pro. The question so many people are wondering is, how is she going to do it? This podcast is here to give you the answer. Join me as I explain marketing strategies to grow my online business. My name is Marie Larsen, and welcome to The Audio Entrepreneur. Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Marie Larsen. I'm excited today because I have a friend on here with me who has gone through, and I have his book. He's a rock star. He understands money super well. Now, a bunch of you have understood that in my life, I have been struggling at this point with, do I finish college, do I not? Do I finish college, do I not? I could just make money. I could do this. There's so many hard things that go into that decision with this day and age. Now, he's done a ton of awesome schooling. It's been super helpful for him. But I wanted to go through and really figure out the financial strategies that he's come up with and he's had that's helped him become so successful at this point. So right now I have John Payton on here with me. He is a rock star of a human. John, thank you so much for being on here with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. As you too. I gotta say, I'm a very big admirer of what you've been able to do, and you've helped me a lot yourself. So I look forward to giving back to you and your audience.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Now, John, I wanted to get started because we were talking about when we first got on a handful of books that have helped us get to the point that we're at thus far and what's been really helpful for us. Now, I have several questions for you all listed out, but to get started, I wanted to talk about your book, The Master Plan. And guys, this book was awesome. John sent me this book. I got started reading it, and there was a part on there that a chapter, I think it's chapter 4 or something, but that was so helpful for me because I realized as I was reading it, the title of it says, let me double check. The title is Just Do It or Delegate It. And guys, that concept today is an art form that a lot of startup businesses don't understand. They think that if they don't do it themselves, that they will be losing money, when really they could be making money in other ways if they were to delegate some sort of task out to someone else. Now, John, if you could explain some of this chapter to us and why you decided to insert this into the master plan, into the financial planning of your life, that would be awesome.
Sure, absolutely. So let me take a quick step back and just give the audience kind of a little overview of what the book is. I've spent 15 years in the personal finance world, and in the last 5 years, more or less migrating into the business world of helping business owners. And in that process, over that time, I realized that there are a lot of people out there that just want to take your money. They want to be able to just say, I can do all of these things, and then never necessarily deliver on it. So I wanted to write a book that wasn't here's what you do. It's more about here's how you do. And so from chapters 1 all the way through the end, it's literally a step-by-step guide on how to build your own financial plan on your own or with a trusted advisor. Hence the question or the comment of just do it or delegate it. And this is the key that I think a lot of people, they miss. Everybody through life feels like I have to do everything, right? And the reason is because no one's going to do it better than I can. The problem is that there's only so many hours in a day. And it doesn't matter if it's your personal life or if it's your business life. At the end of the day, you're constrained by time. Mm-hmm. You're also constrained by knowledge and education and execution. And when you think about what you're trying to achieve over the next 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years, you have to realize that it probably makes more sense to figure out what your strengths are first, then figure out what your weaknesses are, and then figure out who you can bring into your inner circle, or as I call on your board of advisors, that more or less will help you strengthen those areas of your personal life or of your business life. And so for us, when I think about financial planning, personal planning, if you want to manage your cash flow statement by running your budgets every single day, week, month, or year, great, absolutely. But if you're worried about, let's say, the durable power of attorney and whether or not you're in a car accident and you don't know if you're going to have someone be able to make medical decisions, you probably want to delegate that to an attorney, but you might not know who to delegate that to, and so you have to ask people for help. So the more you, the audience, the more you, the listener, the reader, understand that you're an expert in your field, but that there are experts in other fields that would complement areas of your life, that's when you have to really ask yourself, do I really want to do everything on my own, or should I begin to delegate certain things? And if I can delegate them, then who am I going to bring in and who am I going to delegate those things to?
Right. You know, I couldn't agree more with that. When I first got started in business, it was actually really funny. I had $78 to my name when I decided to join Russell Brunson's $22,000, To Come a Club X coaching program. And I had no money to my name. It was, a very scary moment, but I decided to make the jump and to just go for it. And it thus far has become a huge blessing, right? And it's been super fun, and I've been grateful for it. But in that moment when I got started, I had this fear that if I were to ask someone to do something, that would be, a couple $100 I would lose there, and I needed that for that, to be able to pay off the stuff that I was in need of paying off, right, for my coaching programs. And that was a really hard lesson for me to go through and realize that if I were to do that, I'm going to buy back my time, right? And so that was really crucial, and that was really important for me. And so as I've gone through in this last little bit and been able to essentially buy back my time by having an assistant here or having employees there or whatever it is, that for me has been one of the most beneficial things, because then I can be the creator, right? I can go through and they can help me do fulfillment for the things for my clients and everything like that. And then over here, I can be the creator for new products, new things, new whatever, to actually continue to grow and scale a business rather than sit here and just be an agency, burning and churning services out and, doing time for money again. So that was
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right, 100%. And I go one step further. What you've done, what you've learned is that you're trading the $50 an hour job for the $5,000 an hour job. And I think when people can really be able to understand that, and they can say, all right, well, I'm going to use Upwork, Freelancer, Fiverr, whatever it might be, and I'm going to find and delegate to the right people, or I'm going to test a number of people and find the one that I ultimately want, which obviously you can do on Freelancer via a contest. The argument ends up being is that then you can focus on the things that are the most important. And that is, as you said, scaling the business, figuring out how you connect the dots from today to tomorrow, and how you ramp from 50,000 to 100,000 to 500,000 to 5 million in annual revenue. And then in my world, at least, how do you figure out how to put the legs underneath it, so that if you were to take a vacation, something were to happen to you, that you could walk away from the business and be owner independent of the business. And then on top of that, you could look at it and say, you know what, I want to go do this other venture over here. Let me wrap this up, put a nice bow on it, and let me sell that to somebody else. And that all of your energy and effort didn't just go away. But in order to get to that point, like you said, you've got to be able to delegate, and you got to be able to feel and figure out who you can delegate to. And that's the key. Finding those experts, and obviously you can help people with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that, because that right there, we talked about this a little bit right before we got started, but a lot of times people will get started with their business, they'll be so excited, but they are so involved in their business that if they were to, as you said, take a vacation or die randomly all of a sudden, whatever it is, that their business would just disappear, because there's no structure, there's no systems, there's nothing in place where someone else could walk in, grab it, and keep going, right? And so that is something that I am consistently learning on. Okay, if I want this to be a lasting thing rather than just a fluke or just out there for a little bit, then I will need that. So anyway, that was a very crucial thing for me. Now, you mentioned also as well that there have been a handful of books in your career that has really, really helped you to get to the point that you're at. What are some of those books, and why are those so important?
It's interesting. For me, as somebody who has spent 15 years as a lifetime learner, and it's not just reading, but for those that don't know, I hold 2 degrees, and actually next week I fly to Boston for my 14th designation. It's not because I have a desire to just add letters at the end of my name. It's because the more I can look at a problem from multiple angles, the easier it is for me to be able to assess a problem and quickly figure out the least path of resistance to solving the problem. But over that time, I realized that there have been some books out there that I think really can help, I won't say the novice person, but the person who's trying to figure out how to take the next step. One of them is The Great Game of Business. And to me, The Great Game of Business really is a book that talks about how to not only incentivize the employees, but how to be transparent with employees, how to take a business and look at it and understand how to read a financial statement, how to understand when money comes in and when money goes out, what happens at the bottom line, how to understand whether or not being, for example, an LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp or a partnership or something else would potentially impact you. Now, it doesn't get into the weeds of all of that, but it does give a lot of indications of how you should run the company and how you should make those around you participants in the company so that everybody has a vested interest, which I think ultimately is the big problem. If I go hire John Smith, and no offense to anyone out there named John Smith, and John Smith says, hey, I can help you do X, Y, and Z, but then John drops the ball, how do we make sure that John can pick that ball up and run? Or how do we make sure that John stays as an integral part of my business? Or if John's not the right person, how do I make sure that I cut bait and move on? Another great book that helps do that is a book that a lot of people have read called Good to Great. And in that book, I think the important lesson that I like to walk people away from there is the mentality that to find success, you have to find the A players. But the A players, you have to know what it is you're looking for. And the most important critical aspect is you can't be hiring for a position that you need to fill today. You have to be hiring for a position you need to fill a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, because it goes back to your 5-year plan. If you hire for a position today and the person has the skills today, but then you outgrow that person in 6 months, you're going to have to fire them. You're going to have to move on. And unfortunately, you're not building a culture, which, as Russell Brunson talks about, is important. And again, on the culture point, yes, building a culture for your clients, your audience is important, but that culture is just as important inside the business. You think about Apple, you think about Zappos, you think about some of the biggest names out there. Their culture inside their firm is extremely valuable to them. And it also impacts the intangible book value of the business because it makes sense that when you then sell that business, the business will continue on rather than just fall apart when the business owner, the Mark Zuckerberg, if you will, the Jeff Bezos, decides to move on to the next thing. Or a perfect example is Tesla, right? When Elon Musk decides to go off and do some weird things, the stock price takes a huge hit. Right. But then all of a sudden, when there's a safety net or there is a resolution associated with it, the stock price jumps back up again. So like I say, The Great Game of Business is a great book for you. I do have another book I think is important, and this is a book for anybody who follows people like Alex Sharfin, who wants to understand how to take their business from a 5-figure business to a 6 to a 7 to an 8 to a 9. You really need to use the book called Scaling Up, or it's actually it's a second edition version of the book Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. And that book in particular, I think, is extremely valuable because it really talks about how do you evaluate the different core components of your business. Let's say the human capital side, making sure you have the right people, the structural side, like you said, having the right processes, understanding the financial components, and then how to interwork all of those together. Now, obviously, that book only covers the very high-level surface, but it really, when coupled with a lot of other things, really helps people better understand how to take it from where they are today and how to get to where they want to be in the future. And the last thing I'll say is the only real way to take any of that information that you would have learned from, whether it be Russell's courses or books, or whether it be The Great Game of Business or anything else, is you have to put it into a business plan. And everybody says, well, what the heck's the point of having a business plan? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's just like having your own personal financial plan. When you think about what you're trying to achieve in the future, buy the home, send a kid to college, retire in the future, you want to know what the progress you're making towards that future goal is. It's no different than in business. If you have your marketing plan, your finance plan, your growth plan, all in one spot, every 6 months you can go back and you can revisit and you can figure out, am I doing what I thought I would be doing? Why? Let's course correct, let's tweak, let's move forward. Most businesses don't have business plans. And what you'll read in any one of these books that I've mentioned is the importance of a business plan.
You know, I have to bring in, I love that you brought in Alex Sharfin, because he was the one that taught me to go through and make sure that you are developing a position for your company rather than developing the person. Now, of course, you want to help people and help them grow and everything, but something that was crucial for me to understand is that to really create a business, then you are developing a position within your business so that that's growing like crazy, that you're having those positions all developed so that when that person decides to go do their own thing, or they quit, or they're fired, or whatever it is, then it's not that all that knowledge and everything is going off with that person. That position has been developed. Someone else can come in. All the systems, processes, everything is put together so that when they come in, they can pick up and get going again. I did love that. That was awesome. And it goes on along with creating the business plan, like you were saying before. And going through and having a business plan, making sure that everything is developed, all the processes are put together, then that makes it so much easier to have a plan to continue to scale and grow. But I honestly think that having a system, a process for the things that you're doing is crucial. And I don't think that startups truly understand how important those are going to be when you get started. I kind of thought it was so dumb at first when people were like, oh yeah, make sure you have the system in place, make sure you have da-da-da in place. And I was like whatever, like who does that? But guys, it's crucial. It's so important to go through and make sure that your systems, your processes, everything that you're doing has a rhyme, a reason, and if it's a monotonous, constant thing that will be done, that it will be so easy for someone to go and jump on and say, okay, this is how I do this is how I do this, and have all of those systems in place so that you can have a business plan, so that you can have a financial plan for your business or for yourself. But you have to make sure that all those are in play. Am I saying?
We'll go one step further. Yeah, go one step further. You hit the nail on the head that's all important, but let's take it back 15 minutes. If you don't know how to do it, delegate it. Figure out who you can rely on, who you can trust. And the only way, in my opinion, to really do that is to follow people. Find the experts out there. Don't necessarily get hung up in the shiny object syndrome. Don't look for the things that are quick fixes. Find the people out there, and you know what? You might actually have to pay for those people. But at the end of the day, if they're willing to collaborate and work with you and strategize with you, then do it. And if you really are good, start providing them value themselves. And maybe because of the reciprocity law, they'll turn around and provide value to you, and it might not cost you anything.
Right.
At the end of the day, you really got to figure out, what do you want, map it out, put a strategy in place, and execute on it. That's really as simple as it is. And if you can't execute, find the people to do it for you.
Right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. That's been a hard lesson for me. It really has. And I know I've reiterated that a few times. But guys, when you get started in business, it's so hard because when you're creating your own thing, it's yours. It's your baby. You know, you don't want to hand off your child to some stranger. But really, it will save you so much time and so much money to nanny it out, to have someone take care of the baby with you, because that will be so helpful for you so that you can go through and accomplish other things to really grow that. So yeah, absolutely. Now, as you've gone along and you're expert, in your 15 years, as you've gone through, who have been some of the most helpful mentors for you as you've gone through? Because I truly believe that mentors are crucial. Having people to help you guide you through, whether it's in schooling, whether it's courses, whether it's someone you follow, whatever it is, that having people to really guide and push you along and really networking and excelling forward as much as you can, I believe that's so important. Who have been some of those people for you that have been a really good guide for you to push you forward?
Yeah, so I would tell you, I could tell you the names, but no one would know them. The thing I would tell you is that when you're looking for a mentor, and how I look for a mentor is I find out where I want to be, and then I look for the people that have already done it. And then I start to find ways that I can potentially influence them by offering value to them. And it might take a couple of months or possibly even a year to be able to get on their radar. But now all of a sudden I'm able to then figure out, hey, you know what? They're a good person. I'm a good person. Let's see if we can try and create some synergies together. And even if it's just having the strategy conversations, or you can buy your way into it. And for example, if you have the capital, you might say, all right, well, look, I'm going to go and work with this particular person, and I'm going to pay, $5,000 or $10,000 a year. And they're going to be on my board of advisors. And we're going to have strategy meetings once a quarter or once every 6 months for an entire day. And we're going to talk about my business, their business, and whatever it might be. My mentors now are in really small niche markets, and that's because I want to be able to focus on those markets when I help my clients, right? So one mentor right now runs a very, very profitable exit planning firm, and their goal is just to grow and sell their firm for 9 figures. Well, if that's part of what my goal is, then great. I want to be able to follow what they're doing and figure out how to replicate some of the things, but also make it my own along the way. If it's the divorce market or the special needs market or the alternative investment market that I'm also in, then for me it's trying to figure out again who are the players in those markets and trying to create the value in there. There's another book that I think a lot of people would find value in, because I think a lot of people struggle with networking. I'm a recluse, I'm an introvert, I don't want to talk to anybody, and everybody's there. And then when you get to the networking event, everybody who's there is trying to sell you something. And you're like, oh my gosh, how in the world do I have a conversation with somebody that is going to be productive and I'm not feeling like I'm constantly pulled or being sold something? And so the book that I like, it's I'm going to paraphrase it. It's the Little Black Book of Networking or something like that. Jeff Gitmore is the guy who wrote it. And it really walks you through the fact that when you're at an event or you're on social media and you're trying to connect with somebody, don't sell them. Get to know them first. Develop the relationship. You might find that you have nothing of value to offer them, but just having them in your Rolodex, you might be able to introduce somebody to them. And I think that's the key is that if we could figure out how to move or remove the selling aspect of what we do and more or less be humans, get off our phones and actually have a dialogue and a conversation, a lot of people would see a lot more success, number one. And then the last thing I'll say on this is the big key is reciprocity and just being human. If you're at an event and you know John Smith, and again, we'll use John for a moment here.
Sorry, John.
Yeah, sorry, John. And John Smith is a realtor or whatever, and you're having a conversation with somebody, and they're talking about selling their home. The first thing you should do is to say, hey, have you met John Smith? John might be able to help you. Too many people don't know how to have that kind of conversation and to provide value back. And if John happens to know Susie and Susie wants to buy so-and-so's home, well, now it's a match made in heaven and the person's not having to wait 2 months or 3 months to sell their property. They might even be able to do it under the table or behind the scenes with a real estate attorney and save themselves thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
That to me is the key. If people can figure out how to remove the sell side of it and how to just be human and have a human conversation, networking would be so much easier.
It would. Now, I also have a question because this is something that I run into the issue with a lot. Time is really valuable. In my opinion, it's one of the most valuable things we have. It's a very scarce resource and you can't get it back. But with that being said, creating those human interactions and connections can be very difficult for people at times if you are not willing to give your time, right? And so therefore people turn to automation, right? And they automate a bunch of their stuff, whether via chatbots or email sequences or whatever, which those are good, which those are needed within marketing. However, how have you found to have a good solid balance, meaning if you weren't at an event, you were just online, to build out a human interaction and connection while also saving your time at the same time? Have you been able to find something like that?
I think it really depends again about how you're going to make the connection. And on top of that, understanding that staying in front of somebody is just as important as to what you say, but it's not about saying I'm staying in front of them day in and day out, right? Once you have that virtual coffee, staying in front of them might mean just pinging them once a month or pinging them once a quarter and saying, hey, came across this thing. I know we chatted about it previously. Love to send it over to you and love to catch up with you.
Yep.
I think when people do it that way and they use a CRM system like Nimble or Salesforce or fill in the blank, maybe even ClickFunnels to some degree, you can ultimately get where you're going because you can manage that process better. And then you can put those ticklers and the reminders out there that say, I got to follow up with Marie about this thing over here. Or, hey, you know what? I haven't talked to her in a while. That to me is really the energy effort issue. A lot of people would rather try and get out there and shotgun blast as many people as possible. And then when those responses come back, they feel overwhelmed with, I got to manage all these people. Well, don't do it that way. Have a systemized process. 10 a week. At the end of a given year, you've just now found yourself with over 500 new connections. And if you put them in a CRM system and you've put the ticklers in there and you've had your robust conversations, years 2, 3, 4, and 5, now you're up to 2,500. Not just I know you, quote unquote. It's the I actually know you. So when I go into an event, we're high-fiving, we're catching drinks, we're out there having fun, and it's more of a really productive conversation. I'll even I'll throw myself under the bus. When I went to the Funnel Hacking Live this year, I thought it was a great environment, right? You had 3,000 people there, but I didn't know, couldn't say I knew 1% of the people because I had just gotten into that community. And so it would have been nice to have that, or for people that I just met to then again say, hey, let me drag you over here and introduce you to so-and-so because you need to meet that person. Yep. So yes, automation is important, but it's the human factor, and you got to figure out how to combine both of them together.
I agree. It's something that I was actually talking to my brother and my dad about just a little bit ago on how to use both human interaction and automation together so that you are going through and that you're creating real relationships. There is nothing more annoying than getting blasted with chatbots or email sequences or whatever. And it's like, I know that this person could really give a crap about me. I know that this person really doesn't care about who I am. So why, and in my feelings, I feel, why should I give this person money then, right? No matter how amazing the offer is, no matter how amazing their products, their services, whatever it is, if they're not willing to have a human interaction or have some sort of connection with me, I have a very hard time giving money to those types of people. It's usually the people who are going to be there, who are present, who are connecting. Those are the type of people that I will even delegate to, right? As we're wrapping things all back around again, those are the types of people, the ones that reach out and have those real human interactions and connections with me. Those are the people that I say, well, am I going to do it? No, so I'm going to delegate. Let me find someone to delegate with. This person's interacting with me a lot. This person has a lot of, potential with me. Even though this high-end person over here is not communicating with me as much, why would I give my money to this person? I'd much rather give it to this, little squirt kid over there. Like, I'd much rather give it to that person because they are trying their hardest. They're getting out there, they're communicating, they're having an interaction, and really updating me consistently.
Well, and most of the time, again, this is whether it's personal, finance, or business, most people would prefer a warm introduction than being blasted. And again, if you can manage that connection, you ultimately get to that point. And if I were to use you and me, for example, I wouldn't have known about you if it wasn't for your brother. And then I start to kind of come across certain things. And then I'm like, wow, she's actually pretty intelligent. And then I follow more stuff and I look back into you and I kind of understand who you are. And I'm like, no, she's actually super intelligent. And then I start to realize that you're putting out this podcast thing. And I'm like, I want to do that. And I remember we were on one of your webinars and I was like, I don't care how much it is, click the button, buy it, and moving on. But that's just it, is that I could have come across, there's a number of people that I've been introduced to in the podcasting world that say, oh, I can help you set it up. And it's funny, I almost have like a loyalty and allegiance, like, no, Marie's my girl. Like, there's no one else that I'm going to work with, because it's that connection of I was imprinted on early on, and it was started off with an introduction. And while it wasn't a formal introduction, it was that mentality of, I really want to get to know the Larsen family, and wow, Maria is stupid smart, so guess what? I'm going to follow her. But I think people forget that if you don't invest the time and realize that the sale is going to take potentially 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, which ultimately is going to take that patience that people forget to have, then unfortunately you're going to get burned a lot, and you're going to be blasting people out there. And that's the sad part is that there are too many people blasting people. And when I get those messenger bots or I get those whatever out there, I more or less just kind of close them down. I'm polite. I'm, in fact, to be quite candid with you, I don't even interact on my social media anymore. I have my virtual assistants do it all, right? Because there's just too many people trying to reach out and connect that there's no way to be able to manage it all. And again, if you're using virtual assistants overseas and it's more price effective, it allows you to be able to manage the human side, to weed through some of those things, and to actually begin to develop the personal relationships.
Yeah, relationships.
The pleasure of even being on this had I not been able a chance to know you.
Oh, you're so great. John, this has seriously been so good. Guys, we have gone through and hit, yes, financial plans and everything, but the big thing was delegating and having human connections and interactions. That was my big takeaway anyway. And that's something that I have been trying to figure out, especially with John, I get about 900 unread Facebook messages a day, right? And it just blasts me every single day, and it stresses me out like crazy. And, you know, the Marie side of me wants to, you know, reach out and talk to each person and really connect and everything like that. But then the business side of me is like, I do not have all this time. And so going through and trying to figure out a connection and being able to incorporate both of those is probably one of my biggest issues at this point. I'm trying to, I really do want to connect with everyone who's listening to this podcast. I want to connect with my following, with my audience. I want to connect with you guys, but having that balance it's hard within business. And so, again, don't take it personal if I don't respond to you. It's just, that's how it is. But for me, that's the big takeaway is learning how to delegate and being good with delegation. And whether so that you can have time for your business plan, so you can sit down and actually plan out for your business. That is huge. It's something that I'm going through. And I would highly encourage for everyone to go get John's book, The Master Plan. This book, the link will be in the blog, so make sure to, and in the show notes, make sure to jump on and grab that book. Again, he's in a lot of really interesting niches. And so going through, and whether it's divorce or whatever it is, go through and figure out how to go through John's book and really apply it into your life, if it's just life in general or if it's within your business. That there has been so helpful for me. It's been so good for me to go through and really start reading and figuring out how to apply this. So thank you so much, John. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate those kind words. And, you know, I would say in the closing statement, the book was really designed for the person who is tired of the BS, who wants to really cut through the noise and say, I don't need anybody, but if I want somebody, I now know how to hold them accountable. And you can go to topsecretbook.com, and it's not just the book. I have the audio book. I have a workbook that actually walks you through it. And then I turned the audiobook into kind of a mini course where I have some things that go along with it as well, so that people can get the most value out of it. The value proposition isn't in the book, it's what you do with the information from the book. I created it so that someone could literally open it up every single year and go, what did he say about that thing again? Or, hey, you know what, I need to revisit that thing. I don't remember what he said. And it's, you know, in an ideal world, it's kind of like that old leather moleskin that has a whole bunch of highlighted pages and it has marker notes on it, because it's the thing that ultimately allowed someone to get where they want to go. And I've read, again, lots of financial books. It's kind of my weakness. And I can't find any other book out there like this. And so I hope you, the listener, has an opportunity to really understand that this was designed for you, but it's not as good unless you can actually implement it and use the information. And I can't make a promise, because obviously that would be promissory, but I can tell you the people that have used the book and have executed and implemented the things in the books have made back the money invested within 2 weeks, within 4 weeks. I had one client even make back close to $1 million in the first month because they didn't realize one loophole in the law that they weren't prepared for. And so those are the small things that, again, you, the reader, you, the listener, have to ultimately get to. And Marie, I appreciate that you had the foresight to actually go through the book, because as we all know, we get bombarded with a ton of stuff. And I hope to God, you can have the opportunity to use some of the information in there. And because you're a lifelong friend, any questions that you have, you always can reach out to me. And for that being said, any of the listeners have questions, they can go to the website, they can go to a lot of tools and resources listed in the book to get additional support and help, or they can just reach out to me on social media. And while obviously my virtual assistants will probably field some of that stuff, at the end of the day, they will direct the most important things to me, and I'm happy to help where I can. Can't provide specific recommendations because obviously I don't know about your individual situations, but I'll do my best to help you where I can.
I love it. Thank you so much. And where's the best place then for people to reach out to you? Again, will you say those websites one more time for the listeners?
Yeah, so for people who are looking to grow, scale, and eventually sell their business and integrate that strategy with their personal planning, and ideally this is probably somebody in the high 6-figure, low 7-figure, or 8-figure business model, they can go to hrwmgmt.com. Horizon Ridge Wealth Management is the company name. Those that want to kind of do it on their own or kind of feel through the stuff, they can go to topsecretbook.com and they can get better information, and they can go through the process and they can figure out, what help they actually need. And there's, of course, a whole bunch of other resources at the back, or they can listen to my podcast, My Comprehensive Planner, or Building an Exit, the 2 podcasts. In fact, right now, we're in the process of redesigning them actually based off of Marie's support and advice, based on the course that I purchased from Marie, which I encourage all of you to do. And we're now getting ready to relaunch that come January 1st, both of them, which are going to be very logical, methodical, and help people understand how to walk them through a journey that they're all struggling to be on, both on the personal side and the business side. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Marie, for everything that you've given me and for everything that you do for the listeners.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, John. This is seriously so awesome and so valuable. I'm so excited to see all of the stuff that you're doing when those podcasts are redesigned and everything. Please shoot them my way. I love to review. I love to rate and everything like that. So please shoot them my way. I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Boom! Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate and subscribe. Do you have questions for me? Go to the Facebook group, Profitable Podcasting Strategies for Entrepreneurs, and I'll be sure to do an episode to answer your next question. Again, guys, my name is Marie Larsen, and this is The Audio Entrepreneur.